Well, hello out there in HFG land. My name is Landon O'Dono. I'm here with Casey Craig, the founding partner of Highlander Financial Group.
Mm-hmm.
How are we doing, Casey?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well.
All right. Are you nervous?
A little bit,
Okay.
but I'm excited.
We'll see.
So today I have the privilege of interviewing Casey. We're gonna ask him some questions from our Getting to Know Your Team Members segment, and we're very excited to get you more acquainted with Casey. So Casey, it is no secret that your sports are a big part of your life. You played professional baseball and college basketball. So tell us a little bit about how that shaped you into the professional and person you are today.
Sure. I grew up in a small town where I was kind of like a big fish, and when I got to the minor leagues, that was the first time that I was faced with my own mortality, so to speak. That I couldn't just apply more of me to a situation and make it better. That I was going to have to take a good look at where my weaknesses were, and I was going to have to address those issues. Otherwise, I wasn't going to be able to advance. So I think it's the first place where I had an opportunity to go back and look at the game film and literally go back and look at the game film and say, what happened here? Why did this result happen, and what can I do to fix it going forward? And sometimes the answer is pretty clear. Lift your arm up, or it's something mechanical. Other times it's like, well, you're just you need to get stronger. You need to work on something that's more of a longer term fix. And so I think what I'm trying to say is it was the first time in my life where I learned that these endeavors that we are upon are journeys, and there are phases to them, and that you don't get to just walk right into the winner's circle. And sometimes my baseball career ended, so sometimes it's just you take what you learn and you move on, and that's definitely true. I've done that. One thing that from my baseball career is that when you're a minor league pitcher, you have to keep score of the game when you're not pitching. So I've taken that into our practice. As I often say to our guys, when a client calls in, you don't, when you're keeping score in a baseball game, you don't wait until the end of the game to write down what happened. You write it down as it's happening so you don't forget later. And I think that's an important part. That's if you talked about the culture of HFG, that one thing right there, that one thing that I learned that had nothing to do with throwing a baseball. It had everything to do with being a part of a baseball team. And if you don't write things down as they're happening, the records, the history records, they deplete, and that makes everybody around you worse. It seems like a small thing when you do it. It can be a big thing later, and I think that's a great example right there.
Do you think baseball is obviously a very numbers-oriented, stats-oriented sport?
Mm-hmm.
There's a million different stats in baseball. Do you think your interest in baseball kind of led you to finance?
When I was in 8th grade, I was failing out of my math class. I was in advanced math, and we were down to, I think, like the last 2 weeks of class. And it had dawned on me at that particular moment. I mean, I'm talking like I had a 0. I was not a very good student at that point. But something happened in that 2 weeks. I made a connection between the statistics on the back of baseball cards and the numbers that we were working in math that particular semester or whatever. And I realized that I knew a lot of proportions. We were doing proportions and that sort of algebraic balancing, and I knew the numbers already because I would as a child, I would calculate batting averages. I reverse engineered how to calculate earned run average and goals against average in hockey, and I can remember as a child looking at advanced statistics like per 48 minutes or per 9 innings, and so basically I ended up in that last 2 weeks in that math class, I aced the whole thing. I got the final exam, I got 105% on it, and I finished it in 15 minutes. And the teacher, when I still remember, I put it in the thing in the basket, and the teacher was like, really? You're just going to get a 0? And I was like, no, I'm done. I'm good. It was so easy. I had been doing math the whole time. I just never connected. So yeah, I think, that's a good example of you might be onto something there.
That's great. So you used to work with and mentor inner city at-risk youth.
Mm-hmm.
What has that taught you?
Well, I was the form in which that happened was I coached a basketball team, and I learned a lot about myself in that process. I also learned a lot about just humanity in general. But most people would go and volunteer and coach and work with these kids. What I ended up doing was taking a group of boys, training them relentlessly, driving around the city, picking these kids up twice a week, bringing them to the gym. This is after work, of course. We would travel around the country. We sought to play the best possible teams we could. I had 2 kids that were younger brothers of some of the players. They would film every game. We used software to break the game film down and create statistics and create highlight reels. I used those highlight reels, and I bought a database of all the college basketball coaches in America. We had an email that went out, and I featured one player at a time. I would track every coach and see which coach had clicked on the emails, and I would call that coach and say, hey, if you, or follow up email if they didn't pick up, and I would send them, hey, here's this player's high school coach's information if you want to see him play, blah, 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 blah. Some of them would reply. So, some people would say I took it too far, which tends to be, how I do things. And so I learned that through that process. It's like, no matter what you do, you have to be careful what you commit to, Casey, because you're going to go all in on it. And you have to really be sure that, I also learned that you have to give parts of the process away if you want to be successful, and we've definitely incorporated that here. I mean, I had to eventually trust these young kids to run that game film and run that thing, the way they knew how to do it. So I trained them, and then I trusted them because I couldn't do all that. I had to trust that they were going to get that done so that I could do what I needed to do. And so I learned that, and then I learned that the power of what a male presence can mean to a young man who's coming up and developing. No matter what situation, these kids were in a lot of times pretty difficult circumstances, but they definitely needed that consistent male voice in their life. So that definitely taught me a lot there. Yep.
That's great. That's great. Well, you have recently gotten back into playing the guitar.
That's right.
Has that always been a passion of yours? And tell us a little bit about that.
I learned how to play guitar when I was in the minor leagues. A hippie / pitcher, minor league pitcher that was played at USC in college taught me. He had a spare nylon string, like Spanish flamenco, guitar. And he taught me how to play, Stairway to Heaven and all the obligatory stuff. So I learned on a classical, so I learned how to play, and then, I got busy. 10, 15 years went by. And just during, of course, during COVID, I thought, I've never played an electric guitar, which was actually true. I'd never played an electric guitar plugged in with an amp. And then so that just reignited, just like the previous conversation about the kids in basketball, look out. and now like I've improved so much so quickly. But I'm getting to play the stuff that I grew up wanting to play, which was a lot of like popular dance funk music, Michael Jackson, Prince, that sort of thing. That's really the type of music I like to play. But yeah, it's a meditative thing. It's a place for me to go and clear my head, and I really think it makes me better at my job as well, because I can shut some of that stuff off, where before, not always. So yeah.
So do you like playing electric better than acoustic?
Definitely, yeah. Just the technology now that you can use, just the tones and the texture that you can change. I can play two songs. I can play the one song two different ways, with texture, and make it sound a different way. You can certain songs are very popular, and they were covered by different people over time, and you can see why when you play electric. But really, what it's done is it's it just opened up the entire fretboard to me, and I now see it the way that I see numbers, actually. So I never thought that would be possible, honestly, but now, of course, music and math are not, unalike in that, there's consistent principles that you can use, and then there's a rhythm to numbers as there is to, obviously, music. So yeah, I think that's probably why I land there.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yep.
We'll be recording a music video soon. So, kind of do two questions here. You founded Highlander in 2012. Why? And then what has changed since you founded it?
I mean, I founded Highlander in 2012 because I was tired of, pouring myself into my work, pouring myself into my clients, and then having a third party say, yeah, but you didn't do enough of this. We need you to do more of this. And then, not only if you don't do more of this, you might not keep your job, So I don't know how I can be a top performer and still be thinking my job might not be, safe. So I just got tired of that, and I said, I want to become independent. I don't care about being part of a big firm. I want to be independent. I just want my clients, and I want to be able to take care of them. And that's really, that independent spirit is really, still very true in us today. So yeah, that's why we started it. Did you ask how it's changed since?
Yeah. So what changes have you seen since you founded it?
Well, I mean, obviously the industry's changed quite a bit. When I founded it, it was more of a, there was a lot more commission business. You client needs something, you find what works, the product, and you sell it to them, and you get paid, and then you just check in with the client on an ongoing basis. To the fiduciary standard that the Obama administration initially announced they were going to put in effect in 2015. And, that was where we went from, the fiduciary standard being that we basically get change how we get paid from commissions to we get, an annual percentage fee. And, that change in the industry has been seismic. It's created innovation. It's created, it's created really the blossoming of our industry into the mega, juggernaut that it's become. And I feel very blessed to say that, I had a thought that I better get there back then, at the same time that I founded Highlander. And it wasn't an easy process, but we're there now. I would say we're one of these firms that's a leader in that fiduciary standard type of approach, and but that's and then of course the technology has changed quite a bit, which I'm a huge fan of technology, so I just think it's made us all better at what we do. Yeah,
absolutely. So, one of the things you always talk about, and that's very important to you, is keeping your eyes on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
In that spirit, where do you think the industry's headed?
Yeah, well, I think our industry and our country are probably heading in the same direction, which is a good thing for us and our clients. I think that if you're out there watching or listening and you've got some hesitation about AI or cloud computing or just a movement towards internet-based, an internet-based world. If you haven't already gotten the message, I think it might be time to reevaluate that, because that's definitely, we're not heading there, we're already there. Where we can go from here is quite literally amazing. I think where we as a country stand to have a competitive advantage if we choose to accept that position, which is going to require a lot of reform. I don't think that many of us realize how much AI, cloud-based computing, data centers, and the energy sector are all tied together now, because it requires, and sustainability actually. It all ties together now. I don't think that was necessarily on purpose, but we're at a point now where it all ties together. So, we as a firm, we have to be looking forward all the time at what's coming down the pike. And that really has been the biggest change, I think, especially in the last 5 years. As a business owner, thank God for AI, because it takes away a lot of the menial tasks that we have to do on a daily basis, because I need that time to focus on, doing our job, managing our client portfolios, having time available to answer client questions and meet them where they need to be met, but also time to research what's going on in our industry, to go to events or conferences. I couldn't think of the word conferences where I sit and listen to industry leaders and spend time on my practice, not in it. And that's another big thing we talk about is 3 or 4 times a year, all of us at HFG, we stop, we hit the pause button, and we meet off-site where we can talk about what's going on in our business, not in our business. We work on the greater business, and I think that's a huge competitive advantage of ours. And I think that the fact that we have all the clients we're ever going to need, we just have to make them better. We just have to improve their situation, and we're in great shape. But we also need to be the voice of innovation for them, and research and see and evaluate and implement the right types of technology for them in a way that makes it accessible for them, not intimidating to them. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest thing that we can do for our clients at this point. It's a crazy time right now, but we can be the voice of reason. We can be the unifying force. And I think that's a great motto for us. Be the unifying force.
I like it. Well said. So before we wrap up, any closing remarks for our wonderful clients out in HFG land?
I love you all. I love you, each and everyone, so much, and we appreciate you. And we promise you that we will never stop working as hard as we possibly can, while taking breaks to regenerate and remain sane. But we love what we do. We're so lucky, lucky to get to do this every day, and we hope that comes through in our work. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, that's all we got today. So stay tuned. We'll be putting out a lot more content. Subscribe, and we appreciate you tuning in today. Thanks.